Right, time to do some speculating for the Hunted. So, we have Fang, the Drakar of Blades, and we have Cindra, the Drakar of Retribution. So I thought, why don't we take a look at what has currently been revealed and what might be on the table for their builds, right? Of course, favoring a bit more combo, a bit more fun, a bit more kind of unrealistic, but shenanigans nonetheless, so that's your jam, right? Here we go. Now, a little note, right? Channel-wise. So this is all going up on a new channel of mine called Klloo TCG, which is going to be a fab-focused channel, right? Rather than my main channel, where I basically just upload whatever I feel like. This will be solely fab content. So if you're interested and want to give it a subscribe, go nuts. But nonetheless, right? Let's jump into Fang, because Fang is pretty much fleshed out already from a combo perspective. What he can do is kind of nuts, right, with the right setup. So we have Flurry Stance, we have Agility Stance, and we do have a few of his other cards that were revealed. What was it? Whisker? Long Whisker of Loyalty? Yeah, there we go. Right? So, yeah, dagger specs all around. Now, we don't know what daggers Fang will actually have, but you can still do quite a lot with them as it stands. A lot of ways to gain additional attacks, right? So, if you're going to be attacking a bunch in a turn, Grains is probably going to be your best bet, right? Over Flamescale Furnace, but combo-wise, what do we have? Well, through the use of Flurry Stance, right? So at the start of your turn, destroy this, then you may attack with each dagger you control an additional time this turn. So each Flurry Stance that pops on your next turn is getting you one additional attack with each dagger. So for now, we have the Quicksilver Dagger, but that's fine. If we just jot some stuff down, right? So each of these is a +1 to each, right? So this is an extra 3 attacks over our 2 daggers, meaning that right now, we can currently attack 8 times in a turn, and that is a horrible 8. I can do better, right? There we go. Right. Then we have Agility Stance, which I can no longer highlight, but is another aura that pops at the start of our turn and gives our daggers go again. Both daggers again, right? So even if it's not Quicksilver, even if whatever dagger Fang does get doesn't have, a bunch of stats going for it, right? A bunch of effects going for it. It might be, after X chain links of Draconic, right? You gain this or do that. Doesn't matter. Agility Stance is pretty crazy in the aspect of giving your weapons go again, when it does seem like his whole thing is going to be attacking multiple times. So the question that then comes into view for me is going to be this, Oath of Steel. So whenever you attack with a weapon this turn, right, attack, not hit, you get to put a +1 counter on that weapon. Then at the beginning of your end phase, remove all the counters. Still going to be a sizable effect, right, if we are attacking multiple times. Because again, it's when you declare an attack, it's not when you hit. So for instance, combo-wise, in terms of Flurry Stance, being able to attack 8 times means that the first dagger, right, this is where we need the pen again, attacks for 2. Next time you swing with it, attacks for 3. Then 4, right? But that's if we only use 1 Oath of Steel. If we use all 3 Oath of Steels, then it becomes a 4, into a 7, right? Into a 10, into a 13. And we can do that twice. So altogether, that is 24 damage. Did I do my math right? 11, yeah, 24 damage times 2. So technically, there is an OTK right there for 48 damage, right? Just by turn 1, set up the Flurry Stances. Turn 2, play the Oath of Steel. The issue that then comes into question is having enough resources, of course, to attack that many times with the daggers, right? If you're attacking 4 times with each dagger, you need 8 resources just for the Quicksilver daggers. If you're playing 3 Oath of Steel, then you only really have probably 1 or 2 cards to pitch, which is still not going to be enough. But nonetheless, there is that backbone right there, straight away, as a nice OTK, right? And I think you can get it sizably bigger. We're yet to see a bunch of the resources and cards that Fang will have access to. But you have Gallantry Gold as just a +1 to your weapons anyway, right? You then have Grains of Bloodspill, which if you want to, set up, generate a bunch of vigor to then have the resources to go into a big swing turn, or just chain big swing turns back to back, right? And then, of course, you have stuff like Visit the Imperial Forge and some other dagger buffs where this is just nutty to me, right? So 0 cost, give your dagger piercing 3. And then there's the other one, which is piercing 1 plus a static 3 buff, right? I think that costs 1 though. But even with the Oath of Steel turn that we're sort of discussing, again, you need the resources to swing. But being able to play 3 Oath of Steel or 2 Oath of Steel into a Visit the Imperial Forge, and then again, just cleave through your opponent's armor, drain their hand, is a great swing of tempo for Fang. And this is, again, with very few cards revealed as it is. Through Long Whisker Loyalty, you still have another buff to daggers. So a reaction, that dagger gets +2, but then you also will get to attack with an additional time, and you also get a mark effect. So depending on also what mark leads to, that is also going to be quite interesting saying, because so far we've seen it lead to resources and draw, right? If that's going to be the go on a larger scale rather than just in draft, that would be absolute insanity. Now, you do also have access to the Tome of Imperial Flame, but unlike the Emperor, we're not really getting a clear indication that we're stuck in red to really make use of Tome of Imperial Flame, nonetheless it's still in the cards, right, in conjunction with like Flamescale Furnace to basically cycle and then still have a equivalent to a pitch of blue, right? So yeah, definitely worth noting. Again, this is really exciting to me. I'm definitely going to try and pull off just a huge Oath of Steel turn, just swinging with whatever daggers Fang ends up having. But then we have Cindra. Now this is a bit more speculative, right? Not my thought either. So a wonderful comment that was given on the main channel was Cindra's ability to potentially generate daggers, and that would be absolutely nutty, right? So her hero art depicts 6 daggers, and if you could generate token daggers and you could get up to 6 daggers, her combo potential is also pretty insane, because the card revealed for her so far is Blood Runs Deep, right? So this costs 1 less to play for each Draconic chain link you control, and then when this attacks, each dagger you control deals 1 damage to them. If damage is dealt this way, the dagger has hit, destroy the daggers, and for like I'd be absolutely happy if it is dagger generation, but they're nothing, right? You can't actually attack with them, you can't do anything with them. They're just tokens to be popped with this type of effect, because this type of effect then leads into so many other great things, right? So Bleed Out is the nice, simple one when we're getting dagger focus, because as long as you've attacked twice and done damage with daggers, right? No, sorry, this is actually different to one thing. It's not the amount of hits, it's the amount of damage you've done with daggers. So as long as you've done 2 damage with daggers, Bleed Out becomes free. So that in itself is already a nice, again, tempo swing. But then you have stuff like Stab Wound. So again, the thought here is if she can create dagger tokens, and if she can create up to 6, you then play Blood Runs Deep. All 6 pop, and you do 6 damage, and then all of a sudden that covers Bleed Out, right? And then Stab Wound also becomes a 0 for 2 that does an extra 6 damage. And if there's more ways to generate daggers, if it doesn't occupy a weapon slot and you can have 8 daggers, the possibilities are pretty nutty. And, you know, potentially, it's questionable, right? Its value overall, but in sense of a combo nature, Mask of Shifting Perspective with that type of mechanic, with even Blood Run Deep and two daggers, is still pretty nice. So attack reaction, destroy Mask of Shifting Perspective. When a dagger hits this turn, you may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw a card. So cycle, just a whole bunch of cycle. So even if it's, you know, swing with your daggers, play Blood Runs Deep, pop both daggers in one card rather than Hurl or Flicker Knives where you're only popping one, and you also have to pay, right? Well, not with Flicker Knives, but with Hurl you have to pay the extra resource. That's still, you know, potentially 4 cards to cycle out of your hand to look for whatever you're looking for. So I kind of wish this was, you know, yellow or blue, right? And was made to cycle and play later on in the game. But that also sort of then lends more credibility to her having a lot of dagger reusability, either through re-equipping, which I'd also be fine with, right? I think tempo-wise, that probably makes a bit more sense. Because again, being able to create a whole bunch of static daggers for you to utilize might get a bit nutty, right? If you can attack with them, you have stuff like Knives Out to give them +1 in the turn. You have Blade Cuff, a worse version of Gallantry Gold, but still a nice buff to your daggers for the whole turn. Concealed Blade to re-equip daggers. And then, of course, again, leading into Bleed Out and whatever other dagger focus we're going to get. Because I'm going to assume we're going to get a bunch of dagger support, right? Because everyone loves daggers in this set. And, you know, in the generic slot would be interesting. It opens up some stuff for other ninjas, other assassins. But altogether, they are already exciting, right? Again, just swing a whole bunch as Fang, right? Trigger your grains, get your vigor tokens, and then have the potentially a super long turn where you're just Oath of Stealing, getting counters, and doing a ton more damage with the Quicksilver daggers or whatever daggers he ends up with. And then, of course, Cindra, right? I'm really sold on the idea of her generating tokens. So, yeah, that would be pretty nutty. But let me know what you think, right? How are you going to build either of them? And who are you going to play? I'm definitely leaning towards Fang, right? I really want to make Oath of Steel work. I love this guy. I've used it in Bolton shenanigans, but obviously it doesn't see much competitive play. But combo-wise, as long as you can swing, and it seems like swing is going to be Fang's thing, you can definitely get value out of it. Anyway, we'll leave it. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.